Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, with Temporal Forces on the horizon, it's time to ask that question we tend to ask: which set should you be worried about? Which set should you be focusing on? Which set should you be investing in? And when I say investing, I'm not really talking about trying to make lots of money by speculating on card prices. I'm saying which one of these sets is the most deserving of your money. And what we've got here, we're going to be looking at the three most recent main sets, which is to say Obsidian Flames, Paradox Rift, and of course, the upcoming Temporal Forces. Basically, should you save your money for Temporal Forces, or are there other sets which have come around in the not too distant past which are more deserving? And let's start off with Obsidian Flames, because Obsidian Flames is a weird kind of set. Because you see, it is a smaller set. Whereas we've got multiple Japanese sets that generally make up our main sets, this comes from one Japanese single set. Which means we end up with weird things like 4 special illustration rare supporters: Ice Cube, Charizard, Revavroom, and Pidgeotto. So that means if you put a special illustration rare Pokemon, there's a 1 in 4 chance of it being a Charizard. That's kind of amazing. We're only adding in 2 special illustration rare supporters in terms of Geeta and Poppy here. There's only 6 special illustration rares in the entire set. There aren't that many illustration rares. Again, there's only 12, which is very, very low for an English set. So pulling ones like the Amazing Cleffa are just way more likely to happen. If you're looking for specific hits, this is a phenomenal set because it's got far, far fewer secret rares than your average set. And in terms of playability as a set, look, it's a set that brings Charizard, which is amazing. And it is a set which brings Pidgeotto, which is amazing. They are really good cards, and they make up one of the very best decks in the format. But that is about it. There's not very much else. It's a kind of set that's bringing in things like Miraidon and Houndstone EX, which don't look terribly exciting, and they're not, because they were promo EXs in Japan. A lot of the EXs in this set have actually been brought over as promos. Clorf, another great example. Love Clorf. But no one's taken that EX seriously, are they? A lot of these cards are coming around as promos that we get, which is why they come in here being a little bit underwhelming. Even if you look at the trainer cards in the set, we've got like Town Store and Arven, which is a reprint. And that's about it. Obsidian Flames is a smaller set than most. It's made of one Japanese set, so there's far fewer secret rares. And honestly, the argument for Obsidian Flames is you're more likely to pull the secret rares that you want. And it is the Charizard set. Because honestly, all the value here is in the Charizard cards. It's not the biggest set in terms of playability. It's not the biggest set in terms of having lots of cool secret rares. But you are more likely to hit the ones you like. Honestly, of the 3, this is probably the weakest. Now, Paradox Rift is the most recent set, and Paradox Rift is very, very different. It's made up of 3 Japanese sets, a double set, and a mini set. There are lots of secret rares compared to Obsidian Flames, and it is a way more playable set. Now, it does mean that it is going to be harder to pull the specific card that you like, because of course there's so many fewer there. But then it does mean that there are cards here which are just holding a whole bunch more value. Like the Roaring Moon, for instance, the number 1 card in the set. That is outpacing Charizard EX in terms of value. And that kind of makes sense, of course, because Charizard EX is just an easier to pull card because there's so many fewer of them. It is a better set in terms of big hits, although Scarlet and Violet generally isn't. But then again, that's like a $70 card. The next highest is the Iron Valiant, which is like $35. And then Golden Go, which is $30. So it's still not a set which is phenomenal in terms of value. And there aren't any real supporter cards out there that are bringing it up either. Although, to be fair, Scarlet and Violet sets in general are not phenomenal in terms of value, which I know some people are upset about. I personally think it's brilliant. You know, the Tapu Koko in this set is absolutely stunning. It's also a $15 card right now. But in terms of playability, Paradox Rift is winning by a country mile. We've got Roaring Moon, which has proven to be a very, very good deck. We've got Golden Go, which is finally starting to come out of the shadows and proving to be a very good deck. We've got Iron Valiant, which is proving to be a very good deck. We've got things like Iron Hands, which is coming out in a whole... It's not really a deck in and of itself, but it's being teched into a lot of other stuff and proving to be a very, very good deck. We got stuff like Skeleturge, which has seen a little bit of success here and there, mostly in Japan. But then you've got a load of staples in terms of your trainer cards. Things like Countercatcher is absolutely everywhere right now. And you've got all the staple cards that are going to be useful for all those Ancient and Future decks. Your Future and Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, which are going to be absolutely huge. Things like Professor Sada's Vitality. You know, technically Earthen Vessel is an Ancient card, but really it just sees play everywhere. If you're playing a Future deck, you are most definitely going to want to be playing Techno Radar. It's just full of great cards. And honestly, if you put this next to Obsidian Flames, it isn't even close. It's got a better card at the high end in Roaring Moon. It's got a greater selection of secret rares. It's a far more playable set. This is, by a bit of a margin, better than Obsidian Flames. Obsidian Flames really has gone down as being a little bit disappointing, because sure, it's got the Charizard, but that's it, ladies and gentlemen. That is about it. And if we flick forward to Temporal Forces, what we actually see, Temporal Forces is very much Paradox Rift Mark II. But there are some changes. And of course, one of the big changes we see is A-Specs. A-Specs are coming around, and we've obviously got to use some Japanese images here because we haven't got the full digital scans and all of that. But they're going to be the same cards, right? And one of the big things here is going to be A-Specs, specifically Prime Catcher. That is going to be a very big deal. A-Specs are special cards where you can only put one in your deck, one of any kind in your deck, and Prime Catcher is just an item card that gusts with no downside. It is going to be the go-to in like every deck moving forward. You're going to have, and not every deck is going to play it, but every deck is either going to play it or have a good specific reason to play something else instead. There will absolutely be decks that don't play it, but only because they have a really specific reason to play something else instead, and that is the big difference here. And A-Specs basically mean that there's going to be more hits in a box, there's going to be more fun things you can open when you open packs. That alone is going to make a big difference. Just the idea that you can get A-Specs in your packs is going to be a big deal. But then it's also looking to be a very, very good set in terms of playability. Future decks are going to get way better with things like the Miraidon, which does 40 damage while searching for 2 energy, and Iron Crown, which will mean you do an extra 20 damage on all of your attacks from future Pokemon, which is great. Ancient decks are going to get some really good single prize attackers, like the Koraidon that does 30 damage for each of your ancient Pokemon in play, or the Roaring Moon that does 70 damage plus 10 for each ancient card in your discard pile. That's going to end up being pretty good. There's even a Great Tusk Mill deck, which I did not think was going to be a thing, but it turns out, you know, the lovely Omnipoke Joe over on Twitter, one of my favorite people in the Pokemon community, as you well know, he's been following the results over in Japan, and this is like legitimately proving to be an actual deck, which is weird. So it's going to be a set which shakes up the metagame quite dramatically. This is going to make a big deal, frankly. It's going to be a big thing. And then, of course, we got the secret rares. Now, in terms of secret rares, there is one big card, according to Japan at least, and it is the new Bianca card, the special illustration rare Bianca. That is a big deal. That card is number one by a mile. Now, we've also got things like the trio of future Pokemon that are absolutely stunning. They are all done by Nagamiso, and they're all absolutely stunning. We've got the trio of ancient Pokemon by T-Zero, which are absolutely amazing. So there are going to be some good special illustration rares to be got on here. but Bianca is going to be the big card. In terms of value, I can't tell you what's going to be bigger, whether it's going to be Temporal Forces or Paradox Rift. We don't have enough information, although Bianca should be a big deal when it comes out here. But they're both very similar in terms of having lots of playable cards. But I think Temporal Forces has got the better special illustration rares, and I think it's got the more exciting cards. Although, to be clear, if we look at the results coming out of Japan right now, like, the big decks are not necessarily, the most successful are not necessarily from Temporal Forces. It's Gold and Go from the last two sets, which is really proving to be the best among them. You have been warned. Right, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you need to know. For me, it's a toss-up between Temporal Forces and Paradox Rift. I do believe Obsidian Flames is a clear third place. For me, personally, I would go Temporal Forces, but there are arguments either way. Right, that's what you need to know, and now it's over to you guys. Tell me which of these sets you're focusing on. Tell me anything you want to tell me in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, and all kinds of fun things. And get shoutouts on the channel like the lovely Jelena Renji, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now and seems to be a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.